Is it possible to not be considered a gentrifier? My wife and I bought our home in a LCOL read as conservative area of the state in 2020 when interest rates were low. Many new families in similar situations to ours have been moving to NY Street the last few years. The house needed a lot of TLC, so we have been upgrading it over the last few years. New siding, fence, windows and doors, heat pump system, new driveway, etc. My neighbors are older folks and they have not been happy with our upgrades. They claim that we have priced out the locals and people like us are raising their property taxes. Just the other day when we were working outside, my neighbor was saying how all the people moving here was gentrification at its finest. How does one not be considered a gentrifier? I'm not looking to flip my house. I just want a nice home to raise my son in. In all honesty, I could not care less what some old fart thinks, but I don't want to be a pariah in my community. What can we do here? Anyone in a similar boat? You can't control what other people think, don't worry about them. People should be happy at you fixing up and maintaining your house. I have a couple neighbors who let theirs go to shit. It's fucking annoying as hell. I always felt that gentrifiers move into a neighborhood and try to change it to fit their needs and lifestyle. Moving into a community and becoming part of it while fixing up your place is being a good neighbor. Biggest part of gentrification is not supporting local businesses. Go to a local supermarket, get a local bank, barber, hardware store, etc. Support the local economy. Don't just live there and then drive out of town for everything. There is nothing wrong with buying a house and making it nice to live in yourself. The things you are naming is just upkeep of an older home. If people let their houses fall down and not do upkeep in the name of keeping cheap houses all around them, that would be a sad situation. My buddy moved to KY from New England for his medical fellowship, and whenever he gets a smarmy gentrifier comment from a neighbor, he follows up by telling them he prefers the term carpetbagger. He says it works like a charm. It either shuts them up or breaks the tension in a way that gets the neighbors to be less defensive and more curious about him and his story. Turns out a lot of that damn gentrifier's sentiment disappears when they learn he is just a normal guy with a normal family. There is nothing you can do. Be proud of being a responsible homeowner who takes care of their property. Sheesh. People complain about everything. You let your house fall to ruin. They will complain that you are ruining their property values. Can't have it both ways. Neighbors. They are full of shit. Repairing something to its original condition is not gentrification. Envy is real. Who cares what others think? The issue is when folks flip the houses. Remind them you aren't raising their property values because you aren't selling your place. They are lowering their own values by not giving a shit face with rolling eyes. Working on a house now in a rougher area. My neighbors are happy the house now has exterior cameras and lights. I keep on the city to maintain their property. This is a metro area, not a smaller town. That being said, if local politics starts swinging the other direction, and mill rates go up, I can certainly see why old-timers are upset. Some people have their minds made up. Buying a house and improving it isn't the same as buying a whole block of homes to flip, raise rents, and push people is the definition of gentrification. I'd start by not referring to neighbors as some old farts. Try to cultivate positive relationships with them. Learn about the history of your neighborhood. Respect that they and their families have been there for decades if not centuries before you. Take time to read about and understand the gentrification issue from their perspective. And become a good neighbor who contributes to your community and isn't solely focused on your property. By choosing to be part of the neighborhood, Don't show up and act like you're saving the area or that your property is some weird haven, surrounded by trash humans. Be a good neighbor. Support local businesses. Support positive densification, upzoning, affordable housing initiatives, and don't become allergic to apartments. Either you're a deadbeat or a gentrifier. There's basically zero middle ground. Do what you want to do with your own house. Don't let others tell you what to do. Maybe if they didn't spend all their money on gold chains and sneakers, they could afford to live there. Fixing up one house is not gentrification. You are saving a crappy house and making it habitable for the next 40 years. What do people want? For their neighborhood to fall into disrepair? Also, one house has about zero impact on property values, so ignore those neighbors. My take is that they are envious that you have a nice place and they don't. Theirs is a glass is half empty argument. They don't want the property taxes to raise, but the property taxes are tied to the value of the land, which ipso facto is the value of their home too. They may complain about their lives now to you, but they won't praise you when they or their relatives after they pass on make a buck because the same house they didn't fix up is now worth more. Ignore them, or offer to fix their house too. Anyone who bitches about you to your face isn't a good neighbor or friend, no matter the name they call you. Try to ignore it. Why is improving a neighborhood always considered a bad thing? As someone whose family has lived in DC for 5 generations, you need to do community outreach and work. That's it. Charity, etc. If you're not giving away a decent portion of that money you would be spending on luxuries, then you're just part of the problem. Karma sees everything. Some people just have shitty attitudes about housing. Nothing you say or do would make them happy. That's just how they are. I've had people make snarky remarks like that about me even when I was just renting or thinking about buying something. Gentrification is a made-up word by assholes. Someone has to want to sell before someone else can buy. There is no force involved. It's like calling people racist these days. It's just a bunch of bullshit from people who want to feel superior. Look, when I was looking in 2021, most 1970s homes I saw looked stuck in 1970, which was horrible. Keeping the house updated isn't magically raising other homes' prices because you're not selling it or making a major addition to it. You're just making it look nice for you. Their home prices and taxes went up because of other comparable homes in the area selling for higher prices. You can't get out of that. I'm sure that, like most folks, you were priced out of an area you wanted to live in, maybe even an area you grew up in. You were probably pushed out by gentrification, is what I'm saying. But that then makes you a gentrifier to someone else. Because that LCOL area is what's actually in your budget. It sucks. But it's what the housing market forces on all of us. I'm sure that same person decrying you as a gentrifier would have had no problem with their kids or grandkids gentrifying the West Coast or Northeast when they left town for college. It's just going to happen, especially if you are earning well above what neighbors are. New tools? Upgraded car? Heading out for a long trip? Going to get side-eye? It's really more the other aspect than gentrification, as I'm sure there are the well-to-do natives who don't get any flack. Make friends in your community and get involved with what makes sense. And be patient. People do soften up and come around over time. This may be an unpopular opinion, but depressed neighborhoods weren't usually developed as depressed neighborhoods. They were once nice and then became unnice. If someone buys a property, there is no rule to leave the property in its depressed state. The process of changing the character of a neighborhood through the influx of more affluent residents and businesses. Do you consider this a bad thing? So your neighbors think working outside on their house is not a good thing? They sound trashy.